Which South African writers do you find inspiring?
I find all South African writers inspiring, the good ones and the bad ones, because I know how hard it is to get out there and write a book. South African writers do not have the privilege that many overseas writers have, where they can write full time, or they write and their markets are assured. Most of us are juggling jobs, families, other commitments, and finding the space to write in between. So anyone who gets that far and brings out a book, I take my hat off to you.
Do you have any feelings about your novel being classified as women's fiction or an African novel? And do you think such labels serve a purpose, or do they simply oversimplify matters?
Well, I was actually quite surprised when men started telling me how much they enjoyed my book, because I always thought of it as a woman's story. But I'm glad that it has transcended that kind of classification. And I don't think it's being classified as an African novel. People have told me, do you know your book's classified in the international section of exclusive books? So I wouldn't say that it's been pigeonholed as such.
Tell me about your method of writing. How do you write? When do you write?
I don't have a set routine, but I do know that when a story bothers me, and demands to be heard, and a character demands for their story to be told, is when I write at my best. So I do strange things like keep a notepad and pencil in my car, because if I drive long distances or even short distances and the radio's not playing, suddenly I get dialogue in my head and character stories come out. I also write well in the early mornings and late evenings. I definitely don't sit down in front of my computer and say, now I have to write. I have to get out 1,000 words or 2 pages. I write when I feel inspired to write, so it doesn't become something that's a job. And so although there's always this conflict between writing full-time and writing part-time, part of me is very afraid of making it my bread and butter, so to speak.
What was your biggest fear when writing your novel?
I think my first fear was that I wasn't going to be any good. And then you think, will anyone like this enough to publish it? And I submitted it for competition and I came nowhere, so I really thought, oh God, what was I thinking? I must suck. And then somehow, All We Have Left Unsaid was, after 2 years of sitting in my desk drawer, was accepted for publication. I was concerned that because my mother was an author and she has been quite successful in her market of children's books, that there would be obvious parallels and comparisons. I know that some people ask her, are you jealous of Maxine's success? And she says she can't imagine anything further from the truth, or why would she be jealous of her daughter? And also with my older sister having written her first book at the age of 19, I think, it was like, oh, well, she's also writing. It was almost like maybe I had to be 17 when I published my first book.
With the huge success of your debut behind you, do you feel pressure for the difficult second book?
I'm writing my second novel with the idea of my third novel chasing me. And I know this sounds strange. The second novel is nearly completed, and I wrote it just to get it out there and get over that angst of the second novel. I am so enthused about my third novel. I know that sounds weird. The second novel is not delivered yet, but the third novel, the fourth one even, that's the ones that are keeping me awake at night.